She didn't even look up from her phone when I told her. Just kept scrolling, pinky finger tapping some overpriced charcuterie board on Instagram while I explained that my company had offered me a senior logistics position, director level, at the new plant they were opening outside of Helena. Not exactly a metropolis, sure, but a stable town with clean air, low crime, and a $220,000 salary plus performance bonuses. I said all that, slowly, deliberately, hoping she'd hear the weight in it. Her response? A snort. A full-bodied, nasal-laced, contemptuous snort. "I'm not moving to some backwater factory town," Claire said, finally glancing up, her voice drenched in Chardonnay-fueled dismissal. "That sounds miserable. What would I even do there? Milk cows and wear Crocs." I looked at her, really looked. She had this casual cruelty when she felt secure. The kind that drips slowly, never screams, never hits. It just erodes. "It pays really well," I said. Claire rolled her eyes and went back to her screen. "Not worth it. I'm not leaving my Pilates studio and wine nights for some dusty gas station town." God, Tom. And that was it. Not even a question. Not even, "How much?" Just the sound of my own words bouncing off marble countertops and stainless steel appliances we still owed money on. I didn't fight her. Fighting Claire never worked. She had this way of flipping it, making me sound like a monster for pushing her, controlling her, dragging her away from a life she curated like a Pinterest board. So I nodded, set my fork down, and said, "Then I'll go alone." She laughed. Not kindly. "You're serious?" "I am. You're really gonna go live in some sad little town for a warehouse job?" "It's a plant," I said. "Not a warehouse." She tilted her head, the way she does when she's trying to figure out whether I'm joking or having some kind of midlife crisis. "No one makes real money in logistics unless you're managing ports," she said, confidently. "Not corn silos and tractor belts." I said nothing. I let her keep believing that. And look, before we go any further, let me just say this. If you've ever been the man holding the checkbook while your wife holds contempt in her smile, you already know the kind of silence I walked into. It wasn't anger that followed. It was the cold comfort of clarity. She had drawn her line in the sand, and I stepped over it. This was the moment the marriage began to rot. But the fascinating part? She didn't see it. Thought I was bluffing. Thought I'd be back in a month, maybe 2. Tail between my legs, confessing that small-town living had broken me. But something about her smirk that night snapped a wire inside me. Not the wire that makes you shout. The one that makes you plan. And hey, if you're still reading this far, you're exactly the kind of person who'd probably want to hear how it all ends. Over 97% of people never hit that subscribe button, but it really keeps this whole team going. So if you're finding this story worth your time, do the small thing that helps us keep doing big ones. Back to Claire. The next morning, I sent the acceptance email to the company. HR replied within 15 minutes. They'd arranged the move, temporary housing, a relocation stipend. "Welcome aboard, Mr. Whitaker." I printed that email, put it in my briefcase, didn't show it to Claire. She was already talking about getting brunch with the girls, and that she'd need help getting the hot tub cleaned soon since I'd be out there doing your whole man cave adventure. She didn't ask when I was leaving. She didn't ask if I needed anything. She just assumed I'd orbit her, the way I always had. But gravity doesn't pull forever, especially not after it's insulted. So I packed light, just the essentials. Work clothes, a few books, the folding knife my dad gave me after college, and a framed picture of us from 5 years ago when things still looked like something worth fixing. I didn't bring the anniversary photo from Paris. I left that one in the drawer. She kissed me on the cheek the morning I left. "Don't get fat on all that truck stop food," she teased. I smiled. "I'll try." Then I got in the car, turned on the ignition, and left behind the woman who couldn't be bothered to ask what $220,000 actually buys in a town where everyone drives American trucks, minds their business, and doesn't care about Lululemon leggings. I was supposed to feel sad. I didn't. The town smelled like damp asphalt and pine. That first week, I didn't bother unpacking much. Just enough to make the rented 2-bedroom feel like something between a temporary shelter and a fresh start. No matching furniture, a mattress on the floor, dented appliances. I wasn't trying to impress anyone. Not anymore. The real estate agent had called it modest. That's the polite word for old wood floors, creaky pipes, and cabinets that still had faded liners with little yellow ducks. But it was clean, quiet, mine. I bought a used Silverado from a retired lineman named Hank who threw in snow chains and a box of ratchet straps for free. I paid in cash. Didn't negotiate. Just handed him the envelope and shook his hand. The plant was 5 miles from the house, past the diner, the VFW hall, and a bar called Knott's. From the outside, it looked like a relic. Smokestacks, corrugated metal. Inside it buzzed. Conveyor lines, forklifts, compressed air hissing from valves. I walked through the doors in a plain gray shirt and jeans. No tie, no arrogance. Just a quiet man clocking in. My official title? Director of Plant Operations. Base salary, $220,000. Bonuses structured quarterly. Profit share if we hit target. I didn't tell Claire. She never asked. She thought I was managing shift rotations, scheduling janitors. I let her. The first week she texted, "So weird waking up without your snoring." I replied, "Try earplugs anyway. Might help." Second week, "This house is too quiet. I miss our Sunday mornings. Turn on the TV." I typed. By the third week, I stopped using full sentences. Claire never noticed. Or maybe she didn't care. Either way, the texts thinned out. I found a routine. Up at 5:30. No alarm needed, my body knew. Coffee. Emails. Into the plant by 6:15. I started learning the layout like it was a map of my own bloodstream. Who moved too slow? Who covered for whom? Which departments were sandbagging numbers? Which line leads were still waiting for someone to believe in them? I kept a yellow legal pad on my desk and started sketching flow changes. Efficiency tweaks. Space utilization. The site manager, Frank, was an old-school guy. Voted red. Hated consultants. Loved bourbon. He pulled me aside one day in the loading bay and said, "I thought you'd be another clipboard suit. But you work. You listen." I didn't smile. Just nodded. At night, I walked the old train tracks behind my place. No headphones. Just boots crunching gravel. Sometimes I'd sit on a rusted bench and listen to freight rumble through the dark. The solitude didn't scare me. Steadied me. There was a diner up the road called Maze. They made chili that burned twice and coffee strong enough to melt your fillings. After a few weeks, I had a usual. Patty, the waitress with the hoop earrings, would greet me with, "Long day, boss." And I'd nod. I never corrected her when she assumed I was a foreman. Let Claire keep thinking I was sweating it out on the floor. Let her sip wine in her yoga pants and pity her husband for his sad little detour. I opened a new account at the credit union in town. Put 90% of my checks into it. The rest went into a safe I bolted to the floor of the closet, behind a pile of old jackets. The only framed thing on the walls was a dry erase calendar, marked with deadlines, deliveries, and one word repeated every Friday: save. By month 2, I was sleeping better. Not deeper, necessarily, but cleaner. No echo of her voice in the night. No accusations. No sarcasm. No empty requests wrapped in the velvet of entitlement. I bought groceries in bulk. Cooked my own meals. Packed lunch. Lost 8 pounds without trying. No one here cared about your shirt brand or your bench press stats. They cared if you showed up, stayed late, and owned your damn mistakes. I stopped checking her Instagram. Stopped wondering where she went on Saturdays. I knew she wasn't sitting home crying into a blanket. Claire was a professional socialite with a talent for making herself the center of pity circles. I could picture it clearly. Wine glass in hand, telling some friend he needed space to figure himself out. Middle-age crisis, you know? While they all nodded, none of them knowing she had just pushed away a man who was finally getting paid what he was worth. Let her believe the myth. I wasn't building a comeback. I was building escape velocity. Claire adjusted quickly, almost too quickly. The morning after I left, she posted a photo of our patio with a mimosa in the corner of the frame. Captioned, "Solo brunch. Quiet house. Self-care begins now." Hashtagged something ridiculous like hashtag wife of the wilderness. As if my relocation had somehow made her some grieving, abandoned pioneer. Within days, her support circle had reabsorbed her like she'd just come back from war. Monica, her divorcee yoga buddy, invited her to midweek Pilates and then for matcha lattes after. Susan from the neighborhood HOA offered to help her redecorate now that the masculine clutter's gone. And of course Beth, the ringleader of the Prosecco cult, dragged her to Friday healing wine night, which as far as I could tell was just complaining inexpensive athleisure. Claire didn't skip a beat, didn't sit with it, didn't wonder what she'd just done. She told people I needed a little break. like I'd gone off to rediscover the taste of beef jerky and truck stop coffee. To some, she said I was overreacting to a promotion. To others, that I'd hit a weird phase. One friend, Marissa, the one with the dog who hates everyone, asked her straight up at a lunch, "You sure he's not doing better without you?" Claire laughed so hard she nearly spilled her Chardonnay. "In that town," she said, like the word town itself was dirty. "He's probably already Googling flights back." They all laughed with her, and maybe that would have been true if I was still the same man she left at that dinner table. But I wasn't. See, while Claire was having boozy brunches and posting filtered selfies with captions like, "Thriving Sparkles," I was figuring out the exact point in our production line where we were losing 10 hours a week in wasted movement. While she was organizing girls-only lake retreats, I was building out a vendor matrix that would save the plant $140,000 annually. Every morning, I was in before the floor managers. Every evening, I stayed behind, learning the heartbeat of that place. I watched how materials moved, where bottlenecks formed, who trusted whom, and who couldn't be trusted to sign off on an order sheet. I didn't bark orders. I didn't pretend to be the hero. I just made things run better. And word spread, quietly, deliberately. By the end of month 3, Frank, the site manager, invited me to sit in on executive calls with corporate. Said I had a head for friction points. One night, over wings and beer, he said, "You're the first suit who gives a damn about what the floor guys see. That matters." I just nodded and asked for more napkins. Meanwhile, back in the city, Claire posted a boomerang of herself clinking glasses with 2 women in oversized sunglasses. The caption read, "Strong women don't wait. They curate." Underneath, Monica commented, "YSSSS. Sparkles nail Polish medium skin tone sparkles." Beth posted, "He'll realize what he lost if he hasn't already woman-tipping hand medium light skin tone." Claire hearted them both. But the truth? She wasn't strong. She was comfortable. She was a woman who had built her identity on being the prettier half of a predictable couple. And when predictability walked out the door with a duffel bag, she filled the space with mimosas and gallery openings. She didn't call me. Not once. Her texts were sporadic, small, passive things. "How's the quiet life? Hope you're not living on gas station sandwiches. Still doing the whole warehouse thing?" I never corrected her. Let her keep thinking I was managing forklifts and stocking pallets. Let her condescend from her white marble kitchen while I sat across from regional VPs with spreadsheets and a strategy. I was becoming essential. She was becoming background noise. One night, after a double shift that ended with a safety drill and a broken belt pulley, I got home, showered, made eggs, and sat down with a book. My phone lit up. Claire had sent a photo of the backyard with string lights and 2 glasses of wine on the table. Captioned, "Missing our evenings. Hope you're finding your peace." I stared at it for a while. Then I muted the thread and went back to reading, because the truth was, I was finding peace. Just not the kind she imagined. Not some Zen retreat in the woods. No, this was the peace that comes from knowing, really knowing, that you're not the problem. That all those years of side remarks, subtle digs, and arrogant shrugs weren't your burden. She thought she was the sun. That I'd orbit back eventually. But she didn't realize I'd already found a new gravitational center. And it wasn't her. She showed up on a Thursday. No warning. No heads up. Just the crunch of tires on gravel and a knock at the door right after I'd finished frying eggs. I opened it still wearing my work polo, collar damp with sweat. And there she stood, Claire. Oversized sunglasses, yoga leggings that had never seen a gym, and that faux surprise smile that always came out when she knew she was somewhere she didn't belong. "Surprise," she said. Like this was a sitcom and not real life. I blinked. "You drove 6 hours on a whim?" She laughed and gave a little shrug. I thought, why not? I had some PTO stacked up. Figured I'd check on you. Make sure you haven't turned into a hermit or joined a cult or something. "Give it time," I said, stepping aside. "It's still early." The moment she walked in, I saw it on her face. Confusion. She tried to mask it, but it was there. Eyebrows twitching slightly, mouth almost forming the word huh. She'd expected mess. Stains. Maybe a futon and a broken chair. Some sad leftovers and a reek of depression. What she got instead was a space cleaner than our house had ever been under her rule. Dishes washed. Floors vacuumed. Books lined up on a shelf I'd built myself. A coffee table with coasters, used coasters. And on one wall, above the desk I'd assembled in week 2, were framed team photos. One was from our last safety award dinner, me standing in the middle, arms around two of the line managers. Another was a group shot from the quarterly ops retreat. All of us grinning, wind-blown, muddy from a ridiculous rope course that ended in a steak dinner and too much beer. Next to those were two small thank you notes. One from Maria in scheduling, thanking me for helping her get a flex time schedule so she could care for her mom. Another from Ricky in maintenance, who I'd backed for a promotion after years of being overlooked. Claire stared. For a long time. Is this all from work? Yeah, I said, heading to the kitchen. They're good people. I poured her a cup of coffee without asking how she liked it. She used to like almond milk and honey. I gave her it black. She sat on the couch, legs crossed, scanning the room like it was a set she hadn't auditioned for. This place is cute. Functional, I said. I just thought it'd be more, I don't know, rugged. Like your little man cave getaway or something. I smiled slightly. You thought I'd be eating over a trash can fire? She chuckled, but it was shallow. Honestly, she said, swirling her coffee, I figured you'd be going a little crazy by now. You know, lonely. Not really, I said. That landed harder than she expected. She looked at the framed notes again. So, are you close with them? Your co-workers. They're not just co-workers, I replied. They're a team. And yeah, we're close. They've got my back. Must be nice. I tilted my head. It is. Claire shifted in her seat. Looked down at the rim of her cup like it had answers she didn't. You don't seem bitter. Should I be? I mean, she shrugged. Most guys would be. Most guys don't get to start over. That quieted her. She looked out the window. No Range Rovers here. Just a line of rusted mailboxes. A kid riding his bike in loops. The neighbor's dog sleeping in the shade. She stayed for an hour. Walked through the house like a realtor doing a half-hearted appraisal. This town really doesn't have much, huh? She said as she stood in the doorway. Sunglasses already back on. Not for everyone, I replied. Claire hesitated. You think you'll stay? I looked past her, out at the narrow street with its faded centerline, at the plant just beyond the tree line where work had started to feel like purpose instead of punishment. Yeah, I said. I think I will. She gave a slow nod, the kind people do when they're not sure whether they should feel insulted or relieved. Then she leaned in, a little too much sweetness in her voice. Well, maybe next time. Let me know when you're up for a visit. Maybe. She got in her car and drove off, the engine humming too clean for this town. I didn't watch her go. I just went back inside, set her coffee cup in the sink, and scrubbed the rim twice. Claire had come looking for proof that I was struggling without her. She found something else, and it made her uncomfortable. Good. It was her idea, of course. Dinner. Somewhere nice. She even said it with that tone like she wasn't sure such a place could exist here. Like I'd be lucky to find a Waffle House with candles. I let her pick. She Googled best restaurants within 10 miles and landed on Pine and Stone. A place I'd been to more times than I could count. Upscale for the town. Sure. But still had hunting magazines in the waiting area and didn't blink when a guy walked in wearing steel-toed boots. When we pulled into the lot, she looked around and said, charming, in a rustic taxidermy kind of way. Food's good, I said, getting out. We stepped inside, and before I could say a word, the hostess smiled. Evening, Mr. Whitaker. Got your usual table open by the fireplace. Claire turned her head like she misheard. The hostess led us over, menus already waiting. Our waiter arrived seconds later. A tall guy in his 20s with a deep baritone and the kind of polite southern charm that made city people nervous. Evening, Tom. You want your usual tonight? Or feelin' adventurous? Claire blinked twice. They know you here? She asked. I nodded. I come here after late shifts sometimes. She gave a slow, skeptical smile. Late shifts? What exactly do you do again? It wasn't casual. It was a challenge. The same kind she'd toss when we were at dinner parties and I mentioned my work and she'd quickly redirect to something more relatable. I set my menu down. I'm director of plant operations. Claire tilted her head. Like, shift manager? No, I said. Like, run the entire facility director. Her fork paused midair. I thought you were just logistics. I was. They promoted me. 3 weeks in. Oh, she stared at me for a beat. And what does that pay? I didn't answer right away. Let the silence fill her head with numbers. With guesses. Then I picked up my glass, took a sip of water and said, Base is 220, plus quarterly performance bonuses. She froze, fork in hand, elbow mid-bend, jaw somewhere between disbelief and panic. She set the fork down slowly, like it had become dangerous. Claire tried to cover, smiled too fast. Wow, that's more than I thought those jobs paid. I smiled politely. In a dusty little town, no less. She gave a tight laugh. Well, color me surprised. The waiter came back, notepad ready. So, usual for you, Mr. Whitaker? Yeah, thanks. And whatever she'd like. Claire ordered something safe, grilled trout, side salad, dressing on the side. The kind of thing you pick when your stomach's suddenly too full of shame to eat. She kept glancing around the restaurant like it had changed while she wasn't looking. The fireplace, the polished wood beams, the couple behind us sharing a bottle of wine while wearing flannel instead of designer blouses. The room hadn't changed. She had, because now she knew the version of me she had written off. The version she imagined surviving off gas station burritos and punching time clocks, had quietly built a life. One that didn't need her. Claire took another sip of wine. So, do you like it? The job? I nodded. I do. And the town. I looked around the room. Familiar faces. A nod from the bartender. Even a wave from the dishwasher as he passed. Feels like home, I said. That did something to her. I saw it. A little shift in her eyes. Something tight, resentful, confused. She picked at her salad and forced a new subject. Something about mutual friends, some vague gossip, trying to regain control of the tone. I didn't chase the conversation. Didn't offer more than was asked. Because I didn't need her to understand everything. Just enough. Just enough to know that I wasn't the man who left her. I was the man she let go, because she never thought he'd be worth keeping. And now she wasn't laughing. It started 2 days after the dinner. First a text with no context. Just a photo from 6 years ago. Us standing in front of the redwood trees, arms around each other, her laughing, me squinting against the sun. Remember this? She wrote. Then, I miss us. I looked at the photo for a long time. Not at her, not at me, but at the space between us. Even back then, there'd been something hollow there. A smile without connection. A closeness that looked better in pixels than in reality. I replied, yeah, long time ago. She followed with, maybe we should talk more. I gave it a few hours. Then replied, work's busy. End of quarter. Which was true. The plant was running double shifts to meet demand. I'd taken on a regional compliance audit and was mentoring one of the younger line managers for succession planning. My days were full. My nights were calm. And my thoughts were cleaner now. Less fog, less noise. Claire didn't stop. Over the next week, she sent more photos. One of us at our old anniversary dinner. Another from a beach trip with the caption, still my favorite weekend. Then the questions started. How's the weather there? Have you been going out much? Made any new friends? I answered like I'd answer an acquaintance. Short, polite, boring. She didn't like that. One night she called. I let it go to voicemail. She left a message. Hey, just thinking about you. This whole thing's been weird. I think maybe I made it weirder by not taking your job seriously. I was just scared, I guess. Anyway, I'd love to come visit again. For longer this time. A week, maybe more. I texted back the next morning. Really can't right now. End of quarter reviews. Timing's bad. She didn't respond for a day. Then she sent a screenshot of a place she found online. An apartment near the river in town. I was just looking, she wrote. Crazy idea, I know. I didn't reply. That's when the flattery began. You always did have drive. I should have said it more. You're good at building things. I forgot how steady you are. I miss how safe you made everything feel. Safe. That's what I'd been to her. Like a Volvo. Boring until you crash. She was trying to soften the ground. Replant herself in a space she thought might still accept her roots. But I'd salted that soil the moment she laughed at the idea of a life beyond Pilates and Pinot. One night she tried calling again. I answered this time. Hey, she said, voice light like nothing had happened. You sound tired. Long day, I said. Well, I just wanted to hear your voice. That's all. Pause. Tom. Yeah. What would you say if I told you I've been thinking about making a change? Depends what kind of change. She gave a soft laugh. I don't know. Selling the house. Starting fresh. I don't need all this. The noise. The people. It's Not as fun without you. I stayed silent. I mean, she continued, maybe I was wrong. About everything. Maybe this is where we were supposed to end up. Simpler, quieter, together. You know, I said, I think about things too. Doesn't mean I move on them. Is that a no? She asked. It's a not now, I replied. She tried to recover, keep her tone breezy. Well, maybe when quarter reviews are done, you'll let me come down, just to see. No pressure. We'll see, I said. That's when I knew she felt the shift. Because she didn't end the call with her usual talk soon. She said, good night, quietly, carefully, as if afraid I might not answer next time. She had always been the one to control the narrative, to decide when we were good, when we were reconnecting, when we were going through something. But now she was texting into silence, sending lifelines into a sea that no longer missed her. And for the first time, she wasn't sure if she was the one deciding how the story ends, because I wasn't playing along. I was rewriting it without her. She knocked like she owned the door. 3 sharp raps, pause, then 2 more. Just like she used to do when I forgot my keys and she thought it was cute to make me wait outside. But this time, I didn't move right away. I just stood in the hallway and stared at the door for a second longer than necessary. Let the weight of it settle. Then I opened it. Claire stood there in a navy trench coat, hair curled too carefully, makeup just a touch overdone for this dusty little town. In one hand, a wheeled suitcase. In the other, a tote bag with an oat milk latte poking out the top. Like she'd just stepped off a flight from a better life and decided to visit the poor cousin. Hi, she said, with the soft, shaky smile of someone trying to look casual while gambling everything. I nodded. You drove again? She laughed nervously. Figured I'd make it more real. Planes are too easy. Behind her, the street was quiet. Her BMW parked crooked along the curb. She didn't wait for an invitation. Just stepped past me, dragging the suitcase behind her like a question mark. I want to try, she said, stopping in the middle of the living room, eyes scanning the same walls she once mocked. I miss you. I miss us. I shut the door, turned the lock slowly. Then I walked past her and gestured to the couch. Sit, she sat. I didn't. I stood across from her, arms crossed, not angry, just grounded. Too grounded for her to float into the space like she used to, all charm and redirect. Let's talk, I said. She smiled in that practiced, professional way that landed so well in social circles but not so much here. I think I just panicked before, when you first brought up the job. I didn't think you'd actually go. I told you what it was, I said. What it meant. I know. I just didn't think it was serious. No, I corrected. You didn't think I was serious. That hit her harder than she expected. Her smile wavered. She looked down, fiddled with a stray thread on her coat. It wasn't like that, wasn't it? I thought maybe it was one of your this'll fix everything plans, like the fixer-upper idea, or the year you got into hiking. I nodded. Right? Because I never had follow-through. I didn't mean it like that. You did. Claire leaned forward, elbows on knees, her voice gentler now. Tom, I messed up. Okay. I saw a version of this life that I couldn't understand. I thought it was beneath us. I thought you were making a mistake. But you weren't worried about me making a mistake. You were worried I'd embarrass you in front of your friends. Her mouth opened, closed, then stayed shut for a moment. She inhaled like she might argue, but exhaled in surrender. You're right, she said. The room went quiet. Just the hum of the fridge and the distant bark of a dog a few houses down. Claire looked around the place again, as if trying to find something to latch onto. Her eyes landed on the calendar by the desk, dates marked with project milestones, department reviews, bonuses projected in green marker. This job, she said slowly. It's more than I thought. It always was. You just didn't care to ask. She winced. I'm here now, she said. I want to understand. I let the silence do the work. Let me stay a while, she added. Just a week. No pressure. Just see if this feels like something we can rebuild. Why now? She looked at me like I'd slapped her. Because I realized I missed you. Or because you realized what I became without you. Another hit. Another crack in the polished veneer. She didn't answer. I finally sat down, but not next to her. Across from her. Same distance. Same weight. I'm not angry, I said. But I'm not where you left me, Claire. I built something here. a life, a name. And for the first time in a long time, I don't feel small. Her eyes glassed slightly. She blinked it away. I want to see it, she said. All of it. Let me. I nodded. Slowly. You can stay the week, I said. Guest room's clean. I'll be working most of the day. She opened her mouth, hesitated, then gave a small nod. Okay. She was still smiling, but it had changed. Less victory. More hope. Hope laced with the quiet dread of someone realizing she's not just walking back into the house she left. She's walking into someone else's now. The first morning she woke up in my house, Claire acted like she was camping. She padded into the kitchen in a silk robe far too elegant for a town where people drink coffee in flannels and Crocs. Do you not have oat milk? She asked, peering into my fridge like it might grow some if she stared long enough. Whole or black? I replied. She made a face but poured herself a cup anyway, grimacing as she sipped. It's fine. I'll survive. She said it like a joke, but the undertone was clear. This was temporary. A mission trip to the land of plain people and sensible shoes. By noon she was scrolling through her phone on the couch, swiping through maps and Yelp listings. No bar studios? She said. There's not even a single decent Pilates class within 40 miles. I looked up from my laptop. Try walking. The roads are flat. The air's clean. She laughed once. I packed leggings, not hiking boots. That was day 1. Day 2 she tagged along while I ran errands. Hardware store. Post office. The grocery store where everyone knows my name and no one wears makeup. Claire got a few glances, too polished, too loud, but most folks just smiled politely. At checkout, Patty the cashier said, "You must be Tom's wife. Nice to meet you." We were starting to think he was imaginary. Claire smiled, stiff as starched linen. "Nice to meet you too." Back in the truck, she muttered, "You're really famous around here. Just known. There's a difference." That night she tried to cook something fancy, saffron rice, grilled salmon, and asparagus with a lemon reduction. The rice came out gummy, the salmon dry, the asparagus was fine. "I guess I'm rusty," she said, laughing too loud. "I've got leftovers from May's if you want real food." She didn't laugh at that one. By day 3 the cracks showed. She spent an hour complaining about the coffee shop. They put cinnamon on a cappuccino. Who does that? Another hour trying to order makeup online but griping about the shipping delay. She made a show of being supportive. Asked how work was going. Nodded enthusiastically when I talked about efficiency metrics and vendor negotiations. But her eyes glazed over. Her smile didn't reach past her teeth. That evening we walked down by the old train tracks. Something I do when I need to clear my head. She kept checking her phone every few minutes even though there's no decent signal out there. "No one even locks their doors here," she said. "Aren't you bored?" "No," I said. "How can you live like this?" "It's simple," I replied. "Honest." She didn't respond. On day 4, I came home to find her sitting outside, legs folded on a lawn chair she dragged into the driveway. The sun was too bright for her face. She wore oversized sunglasses like armor. "I walked around town today," she said as I got out of the truck. "Twice. Good exercise. There's nothing here. There's less here. Not nothing." She stood up slowly, walked over. Her voice softened. "I'm trying. I really am. I'm just not used to this pace. The quiet." I didn't argue. I didn't comfort. "Most people aren't," I said. She looked at me like she wanted me to say something else. Something warmer. An opening. Instead, I grabbed my toolbox and started checking the back steps for rot. That night, she asked if we could go out again. Back to the same restaurant. "We could," I said. "But I'm beat. Long day." She nodded. Didn't push. But when I went to bed, I heard her on the phone in the guest room, whispering to someone. Probably Beth or Monica. "I don't know what I expected," she murmured. "It's like he's someone else. Like I'm visiting a stranger who used to be my husband." That stung. But I didn't knock. Didn't interrupt. Because she wasn't wrong. I was someone else. Someone she helped create by dismissing. And now she was trying to wear a version of herself that might fit this place, this life, this man. But by day 4, that mask was slipping. And underneath, the same woman who once laughed at the idea of moving here was already calculating the mileage home. The sky was the same kind of gray that makes small towns feel smaller. Clouds thick enough to press down on everything, but not dramatic enough to storm. Just heavy. Still. like the air had secrets and wasn't in the mood to share. We didn't talk much during the drive. She sat beside me in the passenger seat, arms folded over her tote bag like a kid sent home from camp early. Her suitcase was in the back of the truck bed, the wheels wobbling slightly every time we hit a bump. I could feel her stealing glances, not out of affection, out of confusion, like she still didn't understand how this version of me, this man who brewed his own coffee, ran a plant and didn't beg for her to stay, had happened without her supervision. Halfway to the station, she finally said it. "Are you really not coming back?" She didn't say home, just back. I kept my eyes on the road. "No, I'm building something here. I'm not leaving it behind." Silence. Then a small breath, sharp and wet. "But I made a mistake." I nodded once. "You did." Another pause. "You're not even going to argue with me?" "I don't need to." She turned toward me fully now. "I've said I'm sorry. I've tried to show you. What more do you want me to do?" I pulled the truck into the empty station lot, rolled into the far end where the only working streetlight flickered weakly overhead. I shifted into park, but left the engine running. "I forgave the mistake," I said, finally looking at her. "Doesn't mean I forgot it." She looked down at her lap, twisting the ring on her finger, still wearing it like it meant something other than habit. "I thought we'd have more time," she said softly. "That you'd come back once you saw what it was like here. That it'd pass." I didn't respond. The thing is, I'd thought the same once. That the cold would pass. That the absence of warmth between us was just a season. But it wasn't a winter, it was a warning. And I missed it for years. She sniffed, wiped her cheek. "So where does that leave us?" she asked. I leaned back in my seat. The vinyl creaked. "You said no to my future once. I'm just honoring your decision." She looked like she'd been slapped. Not hard, but sharp. The kind of sting that sets in slowly, like frostbite. Her mouth opened, then closed. She looked out the window. The bus hadn't arrived yet. Just the two of us. The quiet. "I thought we had more than this," she said. "We did," I replied. "You just didn't think it was worth following." "I was scared." "I was too," I said. "But I went anyway." She nodded slowly. "Do you hate me?" "No," I said. "But I don't miss who we were either." The lights of the bus finally appeared down the road. A distant rumble approaching, headlamps glowing like something coming out of a fog. She reached for the door handle, but paused. "Can I text you?" "You can," I said. "Doesn't mean I'll answer." She flinched but nodded. "Fair." The bus pulled up and the door hissed open. The driver didn't even look at us, just thumbed his logbook and tapped the wheel. Claire climbed out slowly. I followed, lifted her suitcase, and placed it on the curb beside her. We stood for a second, just long enough to feel the weight of the finality. She looked up at me one last time. "Take care of yourself, Tom." "I've been doing just that," I said. She didn't cry then, but her eyes had the look of someone who would. On the second hour of that ride. Maybe when the fields gave way to highways. Or when she scrolled through her phone and saw the life she'd assumed was hers to return to. Quiet, solid, gone. She stepped onto the bus, and I turned around. Didn't wave, didn't linger, just got back into the truck, shifted into gear, and drove off without looking back. Because forgiveness is one thing, but some doors, once closed, aren't meant to be reopened. They gave me the title in October. Vice President of Regional Operations. Came with a corner office I rarely used, a new truck I didn't ask for, and a compensation package that would have made Claire's head spin. Not that I told her. By then, I'd already closed on the land. 12 acres just outside of town. Oak trees, an old well, and a slope that caught the sunrise like it was drawn to it. I spent weekends walking the property with flagged markers and a worn leather notebook, sketching where the house would sit, where the light would fall in the morning, where the fire pit would go when the nights turned cold. It wasn't a mansion, wouldn't even have a wine fridge, but it was mine, and it wouldn't echo with words I didn't believe in anymore. The day the ground broke, I got a letter. Real paper, real stamp. Claire's handwriting on the envelope, careful and round like always. Like she was trying to write prettier than she felt. I didn't open it. I held it for a few seconds, ran my thumb along the seam, then walked into the office and slid it into a drawer under old vendor contracts and training rosters. Not trash, not sacred, just shelved. Whatever was inside couldn't change the season I was in now. The plant threw a holiday dinner the first week of December. Nothing fancy, potluck style, string lights, someone's cousin playing acoustic guitar off-key in the corner. We filled the back warehouse with folding tables and laughter that didn't need to be forced. I brought my chili. It won the contest. Again. Near the end of the night, one of the younger guys, Eli from receiving, asked me, "You ever miss city life? Like, real nightlife? Fast pace." I sipped my cider, looked around at the room. The welders dancing with their wives, the HR lady balancing a toddler on her hip, Frank giving a toast that got drowned out by cheers. Then I shook my head. No, I've got everything I need right here. It wasn't a line. It wasn't something said to convince myself. It was just true. I left the party early, drove out to the property with the windows cracked and the cold slipping in like a reminder that life out here didn't hand you anything. You had to build it, fix it, earn it. The foundation was poured. The beams were stacked nearby, waiting for hands and tools and time. I stepped up onto the wooden platform that would soon be the porch. The boards creaked, honest and new. Pulled out my thermos, poured the coffee, took a sip. The smokestacks from the plant rose in the distance, steam curling into the sky like threads of a past life I no longer owed anything to. The sun was just starting to rise behind them, orange and gold spilling across the fields. Quiet, solid, mine. I didn't think about Claire much anymore. When I did, it wasn't anger or regret. It was stillness, because she had been the first person to teach me that not everyone sees value the same way. That some people only notice the house when it's finished, never the work it takes to pour the foundation. And I'd become the man who stopped asking them to notice. Let her write letters. Let her wonder if I'd read them. Let the silence be the answer.